Francesca Mattioli. I'm a PhD candidate at Politecnico di Milano, and my research interest is about collaboration in design education, and in particular intercultural collaboration. And today I'm happy to be here with Professor Patty Wongpakdee and Professor Kevin Park from New York. Hi.
Hello. Hello.
Hi, Patty.
Hello.
Hi, Kevin.
Hello.
How are you? Good
Very
morning.
fine, thank you. Yes,
Yeah,
good morning to you.
Good morning, how are you?
Good afternoon, actually. Here it's almost 4. No, it's exactly 4. So let me just very briefly introduce you, and then I will be more than happy to hear what you would like to comment with us, starting from your statement. So Patty Wongpakdee is an associate professor of graphic design at the New York Institute of Technology in the Department of Digital Art and Design. And of course, she's also a professional, a graphic designer with a prestigious, long-standing career. Kevin Park is assistant professor of UX and UI design at the New York Institute of Technology in the Department of Digital Art and Design, and has a distinguished career as leader in business and technology. So it's very nice to have you here and to have this chat with you. And as I said, I would really like to start from your statement that for me was very interesting, and I think it really related very much with what I'm working on. And what Kevin and Patty are actually saying is that working from home has been very helpful to maintain momentum. But however, now we have to say that it's not sustainable, especially for culture and talent development. So the idea is that unexperienced designers are missing out all this sphere of learning, that is learning from other experienced designers, but also from the transparency in workflow, the management of the process, and especially what's the most interesting for me, from design collaboration process. And all of these will play a major role in the future. So, Patty, I would like to start with you, and if you want to comment on this.
Well, thank you very much, Francesca. Yes, I believe that during the pandemic, virtual learning was important. It was no way to get around that. But a lot of it was missing that I noticed from my classroom when we used to be in person was the serendipity and spontaneous creativity that you would have in a room energized with designers. Now, a lot of the things that they would lack is the creativity online. Meaning that being separated from each other, because when you're in a room, there's spontaneity that occurs when they're talking to each other, seeing each other's process, watching how each other developed this or that. In my classrooms, I also tend to give them creative playing. To take blocks, to take drawing assignments and so forth. So they step away from the, let's say the assignment, and then use that time to play, just let their mind wander and so forth. And there's collaboration in that that's so beautiful sometimes, because they each feed off of each other. And it's very hard to get that energy when it's just faces, on the computer. So that's why I don't believe that it's working from home will maintain creativity or in the long run, because socially creativity needs to thrive in social environments, I think. And also if there's and I'm just speaking of a classroom environment, but if it was a studio type thing, then they're missing out on learning from, as you mentioned earlier, from experienced designers, from, seeing the workflow, the process, from learning all the things that are not taught through talking per se. So I mean, that's how I felt about it, and I think Kevin feels about it the same way, because he does a lot of collaborative working in his classrooms too.
Okay, so Kevin, maybe do you want to tell us something more about this? I think you're muted, which is the sentence of the year. So
there we go. Can you hear me now, right?
Yes.
I think post-pandemic really is going to be a big question, not just academia, but also in commercial land also, where how sustainable is it to work from home, or the idea of collaboration, is it really sustainable as moving forward from now on, even though we have a lot of tools available for us to use. During the time, we started noticing that, by the way, I'm focusing on the UX UI, so everything we're talking about is a part of what we are studying on, like how to utilize a tool to, or can the users actually adapt what's new things coming up from them. We're testing on this during our classroom and also analyzing it and all of that. And we start noticing it. The technology really requires fundamental things. For example, professionalism, trust each other, or there's got to be the different section of the human factor that we need to aware of. So, for example, using microphone, like you just mentioned, it was muted, or it's a camera, or landline, the connectivities, or broadband issues. Without those fundamental infrastructures and also trust is based on our conversation, it really cannot be sustainable. I'm not sure if that makes sense to a lot of people here. So, for example, many years ago, Deloitte or Google, they start deploying the system to pretty much make work available anywhere, right? And then that require people to participate and anticipating the new things or challenges and whatnot, and they had to figure it out. In the classroom setting, I think it's a little different, because there's a passive learning also happening, and like Patty was mentioning, in the same room, you have no options, right? You can hide it from us, and then you have to collaborate, or you actually somehow some level of interaction has to happen. But with the digital domain, you can hide from this system. So it's really hard for the professor or teachers or instructor to maintain the social aspects of teaching. There, of course, there's other tools out there which you can utilize to enhance this participation level, but that's another layer of technology you kept adding into. So, for example, with the design development, we have to go through brainstorming process, or let's say using Whimsical or Envision, or like a Figma. There's too many tools available now, where our students are learning minimum 10 to 15 tools to maintain their collaboration at the same time. And we're trying to keep looking at this silver bullet out there. It doesn't exist. The Zoom fail. The meetings fail. So it's just new things kept coming up, but we just cannot follow through that, and it's just not there yet. The system is not there yet, and enhance, we actually have to keep using reinforcing users to adapt to new things constantly, which again is going back to that question of, is this really sustainable or not? I mean, it's a beautiful thing and it's very useful, but at the same time, for long run, it may not be. We may not be there. The human factor may not be there yet. Yeah.
Okay, very interesting. I think also you open up all these, let's say, idea around the technology and the tools and so on. But also what's really, okay, also according to my research, I would say, there is pretty much focusing on strategies for teachers to kind of like support collaboration, and especially to support the way students learn through collaboration. And so far, just to give you an example, the last semester, for example, I've seen that just asking to students and to groups of students, how are you doing? How is your work going? which are your issues, which are your struggles, how can we solve them together? This, for them, was already something really helpful to kind of make sense of working together, especially in this specific, let's say, weird and new way of doing it. So my question for you is, do you have some kind of like very practical, hands-on suggestions for teachers to kind of raise awareness in our students on the importance and the way they should or they can learn best from working with others? So Kevin, I don't know if you have an idea about this.
Yeah, so for example, like last semester, we're doing the thesis courses, and I mean they're dedicating the entire semester to build up a single project for the semester. We're using, for example, we're using a project management tool. Like from the get-go, we're very honest about the whole thing, where you really had to adapt our school system to what is working at this moment in the industry, so they can be adapted much quicker. So we're using Slack to like a Clubhouse, different project management tool to, like I mentioned before, about 10 to 15 different tools to maintain the system flow and then move forward with it, because it's very fast moving courses. It worked, I must say. It became almost like 24-hour conversation with the student for 4 months. Right, because they all have different schedule. They, because it's a graduate school, most of them working full time. So I have to work with their work schedule plus their project schedule. So there's a lot of juggling happens. So tool became, like you mentioned, the tool, it became very critical infrastructure that we utilize, and it worked. And we collaborating with about 5 different instructors at the same time. So it works at that level, and because instructors are in all over the place, and some could be in New York, some could be in upstate, some could be in California, so we all work together at the same time, so which was a beautiful thing. But it worked well when the students' participation level was high. But we all know that the project move on, and then you can start seeing the rise of the anticipation happens, and then flatten out, and then some point it's going to drop. Whatever the personal reason or project itself, or they start facing difficulties and whatnot. That's when this interaction, the in-person interaction, becomes very critical. So because we're so familiar with this tool system or this infrastructure, we're starting to investigate it on more like in-person session. At least I was at the lab all the time, every week. And somehow I find the reason, or try to meet them, even at the subway station, with a 6 foot away and whatnot. At least they can see me as a person. Then I can see their participation goes up again, right? So I start using this, technology plus in-person model, and then come up with some type of synergy in between them. And when the instructor is, let's say, we have an instructor named Grace Fang. She's in California, and there's no way, they can connect. In that case, I'll be the participant and mediator to meet them, right, some point. So they realize there is a person somewhere watching over us or leading them through the project. So I think that kind of give them insurance, and also give them comfort zone where they can still come back to school, talk to us in person and whatnot. Yeah, so I think that's going to be one of a critical thing we should start thinking about, not just heavily relying on technology itself, but mixture of this. And I start seeing that happening in industry as well, like a Deloitte, or like I mentioned, is doing the same thing now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Very interesting. Patty?
Well, I didn't rely on a tool as much as technique. What I did was try to assimilate what would it be like if it was an actual classroom. So a lot of the times on the Zoom meetings, I would, when they sign on, I would put them all in a breakout room for about 15, 20 minutes. So this would be as if they came into the room and I was still in my office, so I hadn't taken attendance yet. So this gave them a few minutes to chat, to get to, discuss some things, to go over something without me being there, without me literally watching them. So I think that was really productive, because once I pulled them back from the breakout rooms, they were more chattier. They were able to bring more. One student actually said, "Oh, my colleagues or my peers," actually they didn't use the word colleagues, but my peers, they told me I should do this, this, and this, and I'm going to try this direction, this design solution, and so forth. So that worked really well, giving them their space. The other thing that I would try to do was, instead of one breakout room in the morning during the critique, because our classes are about 4 hours long, because it's lecture and studio. So yes, I would still lecture for maybe not so much anymore. Before, in person would be for an hour or so. Here now would be 20, 30 minutes, and then come back, look at their work, and then come back and finish the lecture. However, what I would do is put them in 3, depending on how many people, 3 or 4 breakout rooms, and let them critique themselves before presenting it, before showing it to me, which worked well also, because it gave them that sense of being together without really being together. So whether they talked about the project, talked about me, talked about class, current events, I didn't care. I just want them to have a connection, because for a few of them, they would have a group chat, but some of them, not everyone was included. This way, it felt more as a unified class. So those were the techniques that I seemed to use that worked for me during this time. And also, every couple weeks, I would meet with them one-on-one, but unfortunately, like Heavens, I couldn't meet them in person. They didn't want to come out. They were still afraid. So, all right, we would meet through Zoom, and we didn't even have to talk about the design, the direction of design. We could talk about anything they wanted, because I also felt that during this time that, as he says, it's really important to connect with them, because there were a lot of mental health issues being virtual. So not only are we their professors, were also, an adult that they can speak to outside of their house. So it was a lot of growing pains for us and for them, for everyone. But so the only tool that I really used was Jamboard, Google's Jamboard, where I tried to get them to use it when they had collaborations. But it only ended up like one person took the notes. They didn't all join in and use it together. So, it's always the case where they pick the one person and they do all the work. But yes, so I tried to use these techniques to, develop a synchronicity, and collaboration or something, so they could feel like they're in it together.
Yeah, I fully agree. And I see, I would say, a really important common point between what looks that we all did, the 3 of us, during the last semester, that is like kind of like understand that a very important thing was missing, which was all the, I would say, informal part of like being in a classroom together in each one's role. So you can be the professor, the assistant professor, the student, but still you are sharing the social context, and all the moments that we were missing were all these informal moments also, and this also relates to the playing, I would say, elements. So the moment of the joke, so the moment of joking together and having a laugh together, for example, but also the moment of seeing someone, for example, that is not good, and you can just maybe like sense it by seeing her or him, and then you can go there and ask him, okay, is everything fine? Would you like to talk about it? So I think that's very interesting, the fact that somehow like we learn to create those moments. And this is something that I think it really changes the perspective of this weird distant collaboration world that actually I think will be somehow also the future. So I don't know, that's my interpretation of what we have said so far, but I don't know if you have some other ideas. If you see.
If I may jump in for that, Patty, go ahead.
Oh, no, I agree with Francesca totally, but it's those moments that not are created, but they happen magically, just out of them, like you said, playing, just out of the conversation. One is teasing someone else all of a sudden, or sometimes the biggest thing is that I always tell them to look at this website, look at this designer, look at this, and everyone knows that when you're on the internet, you go on a tangent. You find this, oh, click on this link, click on this link. And so what happens that they miss out on, I could have 15 students and there's 100 or 20 different links that are being clicked on, that one finds this and says, hey, did you see this? One finds this. Oh, did you see this? Look, where'd you find that? Where'd you see? So it's all this playing that they're missing out on, that I agree with you when, and it's hard for them to share that when it's virtual like this. So there's got to be another way where you can't just make them look at this, look at this and share it. So that's still something that I'm working on.
I think I'm going to follow up what Patty just said. That idea of play. And I think initially we discussed about the transparency issues. I think the technology or this tools that you mentioned earlier, design tools, can take care of that transparency component some level. So for example, like project management tool or Slack or whatnot, where you can monitor their conversations to project development, and you can use a GitHub or a Jira or other type of tool to start building tickets, so that you can maintain how their work is done. But there are social aspects or human components where this tool really gives this big void that as a teacher, it's hard to participate, right? One way to fix that would be, again, in person. The other one would be running like a workshop in the middle of it. So for example, let's say if we're doing like a design sprint or some type of design related workshop, a lot of things require this human component, right? Interaction. Like you really have to interact with the people, and you don't need you don't have to know the application and whatnot, right? So at least you have a paper and the pencil, you can draw the ideas and you can exchange and all of that. I think those type of external enforcement could be critical besides the common curriculum. So when you look at the course structure is very set, like a per week or assignment and things to learn. It almost feels like we're too institutionalized in a way. Matter of fact, I just ran a couple months ago. We ran a workshop in India from New York, and then obviously in India there was the second wave came, and everything was locked down. Now, how do you run the workshop? You don't have a choice. You have to reinforce them. Just go out. I don't care. Just go out, find someone 10 feet away, talk to them. And whatever this, reinforcement as a part of a human factor, change their mindset. Oh, I heard from this person. They told me this. So that input changed their mind and starting to opening up and more. I think as a, institution, we're too focusing on system to take care of what we are teaching. And I really 1,000% agree with what Patty said about this accidental fun, play is something we really have to start thinking harder how to insert this throughout the semester. So make sure the energy level goes up and participation level goes up. At the same time, creativity doesn't have to, boxed in because of what they're given as a tool is what telling them this is what you can do. Yeah.
I fully agree. And I think it's like actually probably the situation we are living just like made all of this more evident. But it's something that it was already there somehow. Like trying to work on, again, this human level of interaction and connection with students that I think really can enhance the education in general. This is, of course, well known also from literature, but apart from literature, also in our experiences, we can see it. When you can create that connection, also also when you can support students in creating connection between each other, this, I think, really move the whole education process to another level. And so we have last 5 minutes. So I would say, I will ask you to leave to the audience that I don't know how many people are listening to us, but I hope many, because it was very interesting to hear your experience. So I would like to ask you to leave a statement or a recommendation for the audience, for other educators or for students for the next semester or the next year.
Patty, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll start. So this is basically for the students, is that don't forget that you are creative problem solvers. That is ultimate your goal, regardless of the title, whether you're a graphic designer, set designer, fashion designer. To design is to problem solve in a creative way. So don't think that, don't let structures like the pandemic or Zoom or anything like that stop you, because that's part of what your makeup should be, is how to solve problems creatively. So if you're having a situation, step out of your comfort zone, see it in a different manner. But that's what we expect of you, is to be able to, and that's what the world needs, is creative problem solvers. So that's just my quick encouragement to the students.
Thank you, Patty.
I think I can probably just speak about what I'm going to do. I think from my point of view, everything has to be team collaboration from now on. I mean, they've done so much of independent things, like individual things, like no more, personal egos. Just put them into the group, let them figure it out. We're going back to in person, so hopefully that will reinforce that more. And I think having this team learning or this team activity will give them a better chance to work as a team, and also work and learn from each other, and go back to where we're at, go back to 15 months ago, and then we can restart. Yeah.
I like very much that Patty gives this input to student, and somehow Kevin did the same towards, let's say, educators, and to how to organize this new world that we still don't know how it will be exactly, but we can imagine. And I would say that for both of them, so both for students and professors, especially building on what we just said, my suggestion is to really try to create this human connection with each other, because from there we can really learn. And I think this was very much also in your words when you said learning from experienced designers, learning from others, learning from your teammate, your classmate, knowing from your teaching assistant, whoever. And as designers, I think, and future designers, you really need to be open to this. So I would say with the three of us, we gave really a lot of suggestions, and hopefully I think these will be useful for everyone who's listening. So thank you very much, Kevin and Patty. Enjoy your day, since it's only morning, and hope to see you again in the future, and hope you have enjoyed to be here.
So, thank you. We hope to see you in New York.
Bye. See you in New York, hopefully. And so now I leave the stage to the next conversation. Thank you very much, and goodbye.